Thank you for watching another episode of Dvar Malchus, Royal Words by the Lubavitcher Rebbe. This is a special episode for Tu'BiShevat on the 15th of Shevat, 5752, 1992. We are on page 157. The unique quality of the 15th of Shevat expressed in the fact that we do not say Tachnun on this day in the daily prayers as well as in the Mincha prayer before this day is that in the New Year's for the tree, as stated in the Mincha, the 1st of Shvat is the New Year's for the tree in accordance with the opinion of the school of Shammai, and the school of Hillel says the 15th day of this month, and the law is in accordance with the opinion of the school of Hillel, and therefore it is the Jewish custom to eat on this day different types of fruit, and especially fruits with which the land of Israel is praised, since in them is emphasized the concept of the New Year for the trees as it pertains to Jewish law regarding Maser Tais, and is appropriate to explain the concept of this, the day of service of the Jewish people, as regard to every aspect of the Torah, from the word ha'ora, instruction, and lesson in the godly service of man. I was created to serve my Creator, first and foremost with regard to this day itself, and more and mainly being that it is the new year. This should be drawn over and throughout the whole year until the new year for the trees in the upcoming year, with which it will then appreciate a higher innovation and elevation higher than this year's elevation. And by way of preference, trees are related to the Jewish people as written in the verse, for man, which mainly refers to the Jewish people, you are called Adam, man, named so since they are like Adamah, likened to Most High, is like the trees of the field, and especially the tree in the land of Eretz Israel among them, in particular the trees from which the land of Israel is praised, and their relation to the land of Eretz Israel is the outcome from them being the first of the Jewish people themselves. And this realizes greater appreciation based on what is known. The Jewish people are called by the name Eretz, land, as stated in the verse, for you shall be unto me a desirable land. And as exposition of our sages, why is called Eretz? Because it is Ratzas, to do with its creator, Ratzas, with the meaning of wanted, as well as with the meaning Ran, which pertains mainly to the desirable land, for reference to the Jewish people. For each and every Jewish wants to do all the commandments to the extent that he runs with the utmost auxiliary to do the commandments, and through them these qualities are drawn down and brought about also in the land of the children of Israel, the Jews. And from this it's understood that all the specific aspects found in the land of Israel are found firstly in the Jews. In correlation with this, it is appropriate to explain the content of the 7 species of which the land of Israel was praised: a land of wheat and barley, of wine and fig, or vine and fig rather, pomegranate, a land of olive oil and date honey, as known that the 7 species correspond to the 7 attributes, the 7 branches of the complete gold menorah, which refers to Jewish people who are divided into 7 groups, 7 manners of serving Hashem, with emphasis on love for Hashem, fear of Hashem, which are all particular aspects existing to each and every Jew, men, women, and children. Through the new year for the tree relates only to the 5 of them, the 2 species of the second mentioned the land of olives and date honey, and only 3 species of the first mentioned land, a land of wheat and barley and vine and fig, pomegranate, whereas wheat and barley are not trees, and their new year is not on the 15th of Shvat, rather than the 1st of Tishrei, which is the new year for the tithes of wheat, legumes, and vegetables. Nevertheless, since the verse precedes wine and barley before grapes, figs, pomegranate, olive oil, and date honey, and whatever is mentioned earlier in the verse has preceded regarding the blessing, resuscitation, is appropriate to first mention their lesson and instruction in the service of man. Moreover, it is appropriate to first mention the lesson and instruction from the word land mentioned in the beginning of the verse, which is the source of all type of vegetation comes from, both grain and wheat, barley, as well as fruits from the tree, grapes, figs, pomegranates, olive oil, and date honey. For although the place in which the trees grow in the garden, which is more superior than a field comprised of regular land where grain grows, nevertheless, also a garden is part of land, a higher level of land, as we shall explain. Land, the verse says land, for it comes bread, which includes all type of food, including fruits of the tree, after and through the effort of man, beginning with the plowing and planting, and in the words of the Mishnah, one who plants and one who plows. List in the order, since the Mishnah is speaking in reference to the land of Israel, where they first sow and then plow, since the land is firm and it is not possible to cover the sowed seeds without plowing. That it is to say, in addition to plowing before sowing, as with any land, there is also a firm land, plowing that is after the sowing, and likewise, and other actions require for the order of making bread, and similar to the service of man in his Creator. And that beginning, the godly service is with the concept of plowing to bring the broken and trodden heart. It is started as stated in the verse, a broken and trodden heart Hashem will not despise. And through this there will be the sowing and sprouting. And we may add regarding the concept of plowing the service of man, in accordance with the Torah insight of the Baal Shem Tov on the verse, for you shall be unto me a desirable land, that the Jewish people are compared to a land which has precious stones and diamonds embedded in it, only that it is necessary to search for them, including a very intense search, since they are found in an exclusive place in the ground, and it is necessary to dig in the depth of the earth, since at most places they are not the face of the earth, rather in the depths of the earth, which the service of plowing is similar to this, only that it is necessary to place much greater effort, and more in general, including the service of man with the land and everything with which the service of the soul upon its descent to the physical world on the land is accomplished, naming the 39 types of work, one who plants and one who plows, a total of 40 minus 1. The wording 40 minus 1 and not 39 is similar to what is written, you shall have made him on a level slightly less than Hashem. As the exposition of our sages, 50 gates of understanding were created in the world. All of them were given to Moshe minus 1. As it says, you have made him slightly less than Hashem. And in addition to the fact that in a person is only slightly less than Hashem, minus 1, indeed also the diminution of the is a special act of Hashem, and you have made him, and before this act there was no diminution, since each and every Jew is on the level of Elohim Hashem, as the verse says, I have said that you are Elohim. And furthermore, since the aspect of names of Hashem, called Havaya and Elohim, are likeness to the sun and its sheath, namely that the name Elohim is a sheath for the name Havaya, thus each and every Jew is also on the level of the name Havaya. And in this verse, and his nation is a part of Havaya, only that when it descends below upon the lands, this diminution befalls it, and you have made him slightly less than God. And this diminution, and you have made him slightly less than God upon the descent below, to occupy all types of work of the service upon the land. 40 minus 1 is for an ascent, as the known rule that every descent is for an ascent to a higher state than before the descent, namely that the minus 1 is restored 40 to the extent that a greater advantage is achieved, which the advanced vigor and greater strength that one ascends to a higher level than the level of you are Elohim, and even a higher level than the name of Avaya. And may we add and explain the specific aspects of the service of man, which the 7 species symbolize in similar vein and are based on what is explained in Likutei Torah of the Rizal according to Kabbalah, wheat and barley and vine and fig and pomegranate, and afterwards also the land of olive and date honey, wheat for the humans, which becomes part of one's flesh and blood, alludes to the service related to the godly soul found in each and every Jew, the human aspects within him. And barley, food for animals, is related to the Talmud, that when he told them the barley grew well, they told him to go tell his horses and donkeys, alluded to the service related to the animal soul found in each and every Jew, the animal aspect within him, which conducts a person's physical aspects and desires. And the service is in refining them and using them for holiness. And vine, my wine, which rejoices Hashem, and alludes to adding joy and all aspects of service to Hashem, and the godly soul, wheat, as well as the aspects of service to Avram, meaning weak ones, as in the verse, wine that gladdens the heart of Enosh, in terms of weakness, as seen in the verse, the heart is very crooked and Enosh weak, which referred to the animal soul barley, and fig, as the verse says, and he sowed fig leaves and he made girdles for them, and the verse continues that he made tunics of skin, and he clothed them, signifies the service of refining the clothes of a person after the addition of the service with the person himself, including the complete refinement in a manner of tonics and light ore, which with an aleph, as in the Torah of the Rebbe Meir, with light alludes to the master aloof, the world of the aleph or, as the relation of the master of the world is drawn down through the vav of or, aleph vav resh, to the physical world until the resh of or, of aleph vav resh, and similar in the service of man, that the light of each and every Jew is so great that it even affects the clothes, tonics, and they become tonics of light. The pomegranate, they are full of mitzvahs, commandments. Like a pomegranate signifies the service of refining the matters of the world with which the mitzvahs are fulfilled, a lower level than the clothes of the person. And when we add the additional understanding, the concept of mitzvah service, with explaining the reason for the use of the allegory of the pomegranate, specifically in which each and every seed is separate from each and every seed, not with a foreign matter, rather by means of the pomegranate itself, the flesh of the pomegranate. And similarly, with regard to mitzvahs, the mitzvahs are not to be done in bundles. One should not recite Kiddush over the one should not recite Kiddush over the same cup of wine one uses for the blessing after the mina, meaning that every mitzvah is done individually, separate from other mitzvahs, and its separation is not with a foreign matter, heaven forbid. Rather, the command of the Torah is similar to the separation of the pomegranate seeds one from another by means of the pomegranate flesh. And likewise, with regard to the matters of the world, which mitzvahs are fulfilled, and also their separation from the mitzvahs is due to the commandment of the Torah. And as accordance with this and above explained, it is understood that in order the wheat and barley, the vine and the fig and the pomegranate, and the service of man is from easier to harder, wheat and afterwards barley, since the service of the godly soul, wheat, is easier than the service of the animal soul, barley, and afterward vine, added to join the aspects of service of godly soul as well as the animal soul, and afterwards the service of refining clothes of the person, fig, and afterwards and also refining the matters of the world with which the mitzvahs are fulfilled, pomegranate. And afterwards, the verse repeats the word land, in accordance with the above explained, that the land is the place where the service and the efforts of man is accomplished. Upon the descent below, in a state of you have made him slightly less than God, and plowing and planting, as well as the 39 types of work, 40 minus 1, is understood that the second mention of the land symbolizes a much greater service and effort, which through it brought about a much higher elevation. And similar into the different distance between toiling and plowing necessary for growing crops, and the toiling and plowing necessary for finding precise stones and diamonds. And when we say that the second mention of the land refers to the service and the effort during the time of exile, which due to the great descent of exile is necessary a much greater service and effort, and consequently the ascent and descent for an ascent is in a much higher manner with advanced vigor and greater strength. And this idea is alluded to the specific detail in the second mention of the land, olive oil and date honey. Olive symbolizes sustenance in a bitter manner, as the words of our sages on the verse, a plucked olive leaf in its mouth, my sustenance should be bitter as an olive. And this also alludes to the transformation of something bitter into sustenance. As the Alter Rebbe writes in the book of Tanya, in explaining the verse, and makes delicacies for me in plural, that in addition to taste, sweet foods, there are also sharp and bitter foods. However, they are processed and spiced very well to the extent that they became pleasant delicacies. And this concept of service of man is the service during the time of exile in general, in a manner of bitterness, as emphasized also in the name of Miriam, which upon her birthday the main hardship of the Egyptian slavery began, named after the mor, bitterness. And note what is written, that his sister stood from afar, that Miriam stood beside Moshe, and stands beside the spark of Moshe found in each and every Jew, to accomplish his rescue from the Nile, to such an extent that upon the arrival of the daughter of Paro at the Nile, the daughter of Paro, the king of Egypt, who was a ruler over the whole world, moreover, she was standing by the Nile, which symbolizes the might of Paro's kingdom. Notwithstanding all this, she, Miriam, had an effect on her in saving Moshe from the Nile. And to add that this is the end of the verse, and she stood from afar to know what will become of him, happen to him, alludes to the advantage accomplished through the descent of exile, to know, a heart to understand, eyes to see, and ears to hear, and even more than this, also the level of what? Bittul, subservience, what transcends knowledge, understanding, and as such to the level of what becomes become in a manner of to him that is drawn and revealed in all aspects and all attributes. 6 times 6, the 6 attributes as they are each comprised of 6. The number of 36 represents the Hebrew letter of the word loy. And this oil is made olive oil, the word of our sages. Olive does not give forth its oil only when it is crushed. An olive does not give forth its oil only when it is crushed, which alludes to the deep aspects of the Torah, the secrets of the Torah, which their main and complete revelation will be in the time to come, after and through the preference of the deeds of our service throughout the time of exile. And honey, date honey, which the growth of the dates is only after 70 years, representing the abundance of work and effort necessary more than any other fruit, and specifically through this honey is produced, which this alludes to the complete revelation of the deep aspects of the Torah as the exposition of our sages in the verse, honey and milk under your tongue in the time to come. And when we connect this with the weekly Torah portion, which was read on the Holy Shabbos day, from this Shabbos we are blessing the day and the week following it, including also the new year for the tree, namely the Torah portion of Beshalach. And it was when Paro sent out the nation from Egypt, which through the descent of the exile in the land of Egypt, similar to the second mention of the land, it brought about the virtue and phenomenon of when Paro sent out. Paro, an idiom of Isperu, burst forth, meaning that all the godly lights burst forth and are revealed from him, and through this also, and entering into the good and large land, a land of wheat and barley, a land of olive oil and date honey, is at the height of perfection. And note that after the verse, a land of wheat and honey, a land of wheat and barley and date honey, the 7 species for which the land of Israel is praised, is discussed in the continuation of the Torah portion, also about the advantage of the land of Israel over the land of Egypt. For the land that you shall come to inherit is not like the land of Egypt which you are coming out of, which you went out from, where you sow your seeds and irrigate with your feet. It is necessary to bring the water from the Nile with your feet, as with the vegetable garden. The land with which you are praising over the Jordan to come, their inherit is the land of the mountains and valleys by rain of the sky. It drinks water. The land which Hashem, your God, pays particular attention to, the eye of Hashem, your God, are always upon it from the beginning of the year until the end of the year. In other words, the Nile River was responsible for the irrigation of all the plants and the livelihood of the people in Mitzrayim. However, when the Israelites, the Jewish people, would settle in the land of Eretz Yisrael, it was now time for them to pray, because the land would require rain from the sky. As emphasized also in the Haftorah and the end culmination of the Torah portion, and the Devorah, the prophetess, and she would sit under a date palm, a date tree, and at the end of the culmination, the choicest of all the 7 species, which the land of Israel is praised, date honey, and allude to the revelation of the deep aspects of the Torah in the time to come. And may we add an additional point in the revelation of Devorah's date palm to the state and standpoint of the time to come in correlation with the words of our sages. Why specifically under a date palm? Because of the prohibition of yichud, being secluded with a man that is not her husband, since under a date palm it is not possible to be secluded because it does not have any shade. And when we say this alludes to the fact that the seclusion of the Jewish people, Devorah, literally meaning bees, is only with Hashem alone. And therefore we must avoid scenarios of yichud to the utmost degree under a date palm, that through this we will merit the seclusion, unification of the Jewish people with Hashem in the time to come. In the days of Mashiach will be the marriage of the Jewish people with Hashem. And emphasized also at the end and culmination of the Haftorah, and the land was quiet for 40 years, as known that 40 symbolizes the letter Mem, denotes the perfection of time to come, as the verse says, a closed Mem in the middle of the word, which alludes to the redemption. And then will also be the perfection of that all the godly lights, Isperu, burst forth and are revealed from him in Yisrael, the Jewish people, similar to when Paro sent out for the true and complete redemption of the Jewish people, will receive and internalize the greatest revelation from the essence of Hashem. The lesson and instruction from the above spoken with regard to action. It is appropriate to utilize the time of the new year for the trees in order to strengthen and add in all aspects of service, a land of wheat and barley, of vine and fig and pomegranate, a land of olive oil and date honey, as spoken above, both as far as oneself is concerned, as well as one regarding influencing others, including and especially through arranging for brangins, Hasidic gatherings in which people will arouse each other in above spoken manner, and it is appropriate to arouse above guarding the completeness of the land, to completeness nullify land like the dust of the ground, the thoughts of the possibilities, as well as speaking about giving parts of the land of Israel, which is in our hands, to the nations of the world, not even one handbreadth, moreover, not even a hairbreadth. Instead, we must guard the completeness of the land, which was already given in actuality by Hashem to the possession of the Jewish people in the present time, along with the completeness of the Jewish nations, as well as the completeness of the Torah, a trifold and eternal completeness. And may it be the will of Hashem that the mere making of the resolutions in all above spoken, which Hashem sees through of the heart, will immediately bring about the reward that with our young and with our elders we will go and we will run with the clouds of Hashem to the Holy Land, the land of Israel, and it's complete, not only in the land of 7 nations, rather the land of 10 nations, a land of wheat and barley and wine and fig and pomegranate, a land of olive oil and date honey, to eat from its fruit and to be satiated from its goodness, and to make the blessing in giving gratitude for the land and for its fruit. Moreover, a land full of precious stones and diamonds, and with the land itself into Jerusalem, the holy city, then to the holy mountain, then to the third base of Mikdash, and then to the Holy of Holies, in which we find, from which the entire world was fine, the Shesa stone. And in the wording of the verse, the song of the sea, and the Torah portion of the week in which we are now coming from, bring them and plant them on the mountain of your inheritance, a sanctuary which your hands, O Hashem, have established, when Hashem shall reign forever and ever in the time to come, when the entire kingdom is his. The revelation of the kingdom of Hashem in the whole world, which is especially connected to the Rosh Hashanah, which is also related to the Rosh Hashanah New Year for the trees, when we recite verses of kingship, verses of remembrance, and verses of shofar horns, including and especially blow the great shofar for our freedom. Shofar so good. And through the addition in fulfilling the commandment of charity, which hastens the redemption, we hasten the fulfillment of all this in a literal sense, literally, immediately. Good Yom Tov, happy Rosh Hashanah for the trees. Sei gesund, Chag Sameach.